Hey everybody, Nick here, and today I got a review for you of this very interesting little knife right here. This is the Protech Knives Calmigo, something along those lines. First off, though, I want to thank my buddies over at Hellacious Blades in York, South Carolina. Nice people, and they cut me a deal on this guy in exchange for the shout out. But the thing is, I've used them before. They're cool, so check them out if you're in the area, or frankly, if you're not. Good folks. So, anyways, there's that. Next thing, size comparison. This is not a large knife here. Particularly here, we'll show it up against the Spyderco Delica here. You can see it's a very, very small knife here, blade lengthwise and other lengthwise. Here it is against the Ontario Rat number 1, and here it is against the Rat number 2. So you can see here, yeah, it's a small one. And then here it is against perhaps the most apt size comparison. This right here is the Protech Sprint. We're going to keep coming back to this comparison. But these are very interesting knives next to each other. And you can see here it's wider, it's a little bit thicker in the stock. It's a bigger knife overall. So there's that. Next thing, one thing I want to highlight here, partly because, well, I want to be upfront about things, and partly because it actually informed my review, is that recently, actually in concert with the Blade HQ folks, who brought me out there to do a Blade banter, I went up to Protech Knives themselves, up to, they're in Los Angeles, or the area at least, and so I drove up there, and I got to do a tour of the shop, got to meet Dave from Protech, as well as some of the other folks around there. That was very nice, but honestly, that does inform my review, and I'll kind of mention a couple of things from here and there, what's going on there. Then finally, a quick note on this. You're probably thinking, Nick, that's a tiny freaking knife. What's up with that? Well, the thing is, in the state of California here, the law is that an automatic knife has to be under 2 inches, and you know what? This one is, and that's important. So that's the Protech Calmigo introduction here. Let's go ahead and talk about the good, the great, the bad, and the ugly of this very interesting little knife right here. So on the good side, to start with, actually, this is not about the knife itself, but it's an important thing. Protech has fixed the language in their warranty. When I was over there at Protech, they said very explicitly, Nick, I know you mentioned in the past that disassembling the knife voids warranty. They said that they never really enforced that particularly, but more importantly, they have fixed the warranty language, so it's now that if you disassemble the knife and break the knife as you're doing it, then you got a problem. Otherwise, warranty is just fine. So that's a beautiful thing. And also, this guy didn't come with blade play. This is a relatively recent production, so maybe they've been up in their game there, but either way, it's really nice to see those two improvements there. Next thing, this guy is made in the US of the A. This is made right up there in California, and I gotta say, I was kind of impressed with the verticality of everything. It's not like they were getting, blanks brought in from overseas or anything like that. This was really made pretty much entirely in the States, pretty much entirely in a warehouse over behind the freaking milk plant over there, so, that's kind of cool. And I always appreciate supporting my own home team, especially when they're pretty damn close to me anyways, so that's nice. Next thing, this is a Cali legal size. Those of us living in California dealing with the 2-inch law, that's a little bit ugly, and I appreciate the fact that Protech offers not just one, but many options for us, and I've done a couple of other reviews, also looked at the Half-Breed, as well as the Runt, as well as the Sprint here, which are all Cali legal autos. I really appreciate that they've done that, but honestly, even just putting aside the laws, sometimes this kind of a size is a beautiful thing, because a lot of people are going to get scared by, oh my god, switchblades! And this guy doesn't really have that effect so much, particularly if you kind of stealth it open a little bit, but honestly, there aren't that many people who are going to get scared about that, and that can be a really nice thing, depending on where you work, who you deal with, etc. Next thing, this has got the Tron texture. That is their term, not mine. And so it's like a little bit of crop circle. It's really, honestly, it's cool looking. Big fan of it. And one thing that I really like is that they didn't do the texturing under the pocket clip, which is just indicative of the fact that they're thinking really hard about the clip. That's just great. I am just a huge fan of that, and I appreciate it very much. Next thing, this guy is, so the Tron texture, good to go. Next thing, the action on this guy is great. It is a smooth action. It fires 100% reliably with absolutely no wrist or anything. In fact, I mean, look, I'm going to put my hand on the table here. You can see it shakes the camera. This thing fires with some kick, with some authority there. But it also has a relatively smooth closing. As I've got it dialed in and oiled up here, it is absolutely smooth. It's beautiful. And frankly, one of the nice things about a side-fire automatic is that you've always got the option to pop the blade open manually and sort of open it like a slip joint. So it's like, oh, is that a traditional slip joint or is it an automatic knife? No one knows. That can be very nice in scared situations, but the action on this guy is absolutely great and frankly does fire with some authority. Next thing, the blade on this guy is good in some ways. You have yourself a nice blade shape with some flat area here, some belly, a little bit of flat at the top there, and actually that little bit of flat at the top is nice because it allows you to do scraping sorts of cuts that can be very useful, at least in everyday life, or at least in my everyday life. Scraping my table up a little bit there. Smart. So anyways, and the steel on this guy is 154 cm, which is absolutely good to go. It has a sharpening choil. Honestly, it's a nice little blade in a lot of ways. In fact, all ways but one. So that's good. Next thing on this guy, this has a lock on it. So this little unit right here, little silver button. If I press it this way, then I hit the button, nothing happens. I can press this button just as hard as I like and absolutely nothing happens. Pull this back, press the button, boom, knife deploys. And as you saw in the disassembly, there's just a little piece of metal, basically, that slides in under the button there. One nice thing that I didn't notice at first is that when you put the lock into position when the knife is open, guess what? You can't engage the button then either. And therefore, this knife cannot really close. In fact, I don't think it could close at all. And that's nice. I mean, if you're really going to be beating on your 2-inch automatic knife, then that may be something that's appealing to you, because when you pop it back there, then it can actually close and shut again. The spring tension's high enough that I'm not super concerned about it regardless, but it's nice that you can lock the knife both open and closed if that's something that brings you joy. Next thing, ergonomically speaking, this is pretty good. Both, you've got this grip here where you've kind of pulled back a little bit, and you're using this finger groove to keep it in hand, or you can also choke up a little bit. They've got a nice little flat area here that allows me to really, choke up for detail work, which I can't think about the same way after Pete's videos over at Cedric A to Gear and Outdoors. But either way, that's a nice thing. And the ergos on the whole are pretty good too. Probably do reverse grip if you're a ninja or something. Anyways, it's solid. Can't argue there. Next thing, the clip on this guy is great. As I mentioned in the disassembly, Protech is a company who does clips really, really well. Like every knife I've had by them, maybe the Runt aside, but that was an older design, has really had the clip just be on point, because they have the flush screws under there, which means this goes all the way into your pants there. It's the bending is good. The clip design is good overall. The clip being not on a textured surface, the clips, they're just so damn good. And so I like very much that, and this is yet another example of a damn good clip out of Protech. Then finally, the price on this guy is actually, I think, pretty reasonable. It's $115 for an American-made automatic and a steel that's quite reasonable with some nice, details and, frankly, good construction overall. No, can't get too bad out of shape about that. So, to me at least, that is the good here. The price is pretty reasonable, especially for USA made. The clip is stellar. It is solid ergonomics. The lock might be a joy for some folks. The action is solid. The blade shape is nice. It's got the Tron texture thing. It's California legal, made in the States. And they fixed the warranty language, which was always a little bit ugly in past reviews. To me, what's great about this guy, after doing the disassembly specifically, is this just feels like such a clean, evolved design. What I mean by that is that there are many knives in the world that are kind of new, that are like, oh my god, wow, this is novel. But the problem with a brand new design is that often it's got a lot of kinks. It's got a lot of areas where it's just like not optimized. This honestly feels like a knife that's been made by somebody who's been making automatic knives for a long time. And yeah, they have, that's true. But it feels like there's a lot of evolution here. The lock is very simple. The button lock is very simple. The design is relatively simple. The construction on it is relatively simple. Everything goes together just as you'd like it to. It's resoundingly well made, I think, is the thing I can say about it. And disassembly, as a result, is very easy. This is it's a profoundly well-produced knife. And I feel that way about everything I've handled from Protech, actually. But this really shows it well. I think this is it's a relatively complicated thing that is an automatic knife, but it's done in a way that's pretty simple, and I think that shows a level of, I don't know what I want here, like professionalism, mastery. Either way, they're good at their freaking jobs. And so, to me, that's what's great here, is that this is just a cleanly made knife. You can tell it's been iterated a lot, and they've done a really nice job of it. So that's good. That's great, I'm sorry. That is the great. On the bad side, this is more chalky black aluminum. In fact, when I first walked into the shop for the tour, Dave said, okay, and over here we see a big pile of chalky black aluminum, referencing my past reviews, which the poor bastard had apparently watched, and where I complain about that. Look, it's never something I'm going to love, but apparently he says it sells really well, so they keep doing it. Doesn't mean I have to love it. But the thing is, Caligo is actually Latin for darkness, so Calmigo being dark, yeah, I guess so. Anyways, it's probably beside the point. Next thing, the lock on this guy honestly is not super compelling to me. So the knife itself, even without the knife or the lock engaged, this guy has a recessed button, which means I can press this guy down against the table, even with the lock disengaged, and it's not going to fire. Similarly, in my pocket, it's not going to fire. And I've never, in fact, had an issue with the Protech Sprint, which does not have that lock, accidentally firing in my pocket. And so I don't really feel like the lock is needed. And in fact, several times as I've been carrying this, I've realized, damn it, like I take it out of my pocket, I get ready to fire, and I just like, no, and then I have to pull the lock back, fire again. Not a big deal, but honestly, to me, it just doesn't feel that super necessary. So it is what it is, though. You might like it, you might not, whatever. Next thing, this guy is a 154 cm blade. Now, that's a fine steel. I'm not complaining about 154 cm, but what I am saying is it's a little weird that the Sprint is done in S35 when this guy is done in 154. I just don't quite get it. I do like S35 being a little bit better, and it's just a little surprising to see that here rather than there. Next thing, stock on this guy is a little bit on the thicker side, and it is definitely thicker than the Sprint here. So if we do a quick little bit of measurement here, unlock my calipers here, we are coming in at, let's see here, stock thickness around 0.11 millimeter, or inches, that is, 0.11 millimeters, no, not quite, versus 0.09, maybe 0.1, either way, inches, again, of stock thickness. They're just thicker. I mean, if you look at these two guys, it's pretty clear who's thicker, and honestly, the grind is a little bit thicker as well, and all that this means is that it's just not quite as much of a cutting beast as the Sprint is. You can absolutely cut with this guy, and, it will cut, but the Sprint just cuts a little bit easier, a little less resistance. So, not a big deal, but it's a thing. Then finally, on the bad side, of course, 2 inches of blade is not always going to be enough blade for people. I mean, that's just a simple fact of life. That is a legal line rather than a practical one, and so, you may think to yourself, do I really, if you live in California, remember that, non-automatic knives you can carry damn near any size you want. Check your local ordinances, talk to a lawyer, not a jackass. But nevertheless, the 2-inch line may be something that's frustrating for you in a lot of practical uses. So to me, that is the bad here, is that 2 inches is not enough blade in a lot of cases. The stock is a little bit thick on this guy, and the grind a little bit as well. This is using 154 cm rather than the S35 in the Sprint, which is maybe a little less compelling. The lock is an extra step that may not be needed for a lot of folks. And then finally, it's got the chalky black aluminum thing again, but whatever, okay. On the ugly front, there is only one ugly issue, and that is if we look at the sharpening here, take a look at basically the edge here. This is not a big deal, but if you take a look here, it's definitely a much thinner bevel here, and then it thickens out a little bit in this little area here. Then if we flip this guy over, you can see that down here it's a very, very thin edge, and then it's a little thicker. Here it thins out again. It's just sort of inconsistent. Is it terrible? No, and in fact, as you go ahead and sharpen this guy up in the rest of your life, you're going to see that pretty much disappear, because chances are you're going to take it to one consistent angle there. But it makes me feel like this might have been the first knife of the day, or the last knife of the day for whoever was doing the sharpening, and that may not be great. And it's someplace that maybe they could work on a little bit, but, whatever. It wasn't a big enough deal that it's like, oh, QC, return it. But, whatever. I got a nitpick. That's what I do. So that's the ugly, is that the edge on this particular item is a little bit inconsistent when I've not really had that issue before. So hopefully it was just, like I said, a bad day. Final conclusion-wise, the Calmigo feels like a Protech Runt, except evolved. I did a review of the Runt some time back, and honestly, I really didn't care for it. It was a knife that Dave from Protech ended up saying was kind of an older generation for them, but this really feels like the evolution of the Runt, because it's got a blade that's a little bit nicer in terms of shape. It's got a clip that is just worlds better. It's better to carry, a little safer, I feel like. It's nicely made. And it's got that same basic philosophy of a thick, durable, beatery 2-inch blade, which is a weird sort of thing to start with. But I like this guy way, way better than the Runt. I did not care for the Runt at all. This is a very fine knife right here. And honestly, given the existence of this knife, there is no universe in which I would recommend the Runt. This is just better. That said, the Calmigo here does have a couple of little issues. The lock here is probably not for everybody, although who knows? I mean, it's pretty inoffensive. You just don't use it. and there's not a lock on it. The blade on this guy is not necessarily as slicey as I'd like, and you absolutely may not want a 2-inch auto outside of California. And, of course, this particular unit's got the sharp, but whatever. The elephant in the room, though, for this knife is actually that Protech Sprint. This is a knife from my permanent collection. This is a knife I bought as a part of my, California legal auto roundup thing, and I like this knife a lot. I carry it. It's great. But the thing is, this knife to me is a little bit more appealing. You're getting S35 VN steel rather than 154. You're getting a grind that is slicier, coupled with a blade that is a little bit thinner and slicier as well. You lose the lock, which can be good or bad depending on your perspective, but you get something that's even smaller and a little bit more carryable. I mean, it's even a little tiny bit lighter, although I wouldn't say, come on, scale, where'd my freaking scale go, people? Come here, scale. You around here? Either way, it's a little bit freaking lighter. There it is. Too much junk around. But anyways, as a result, you end up with something that is a little bit lighter, a little bit easier to carry. See, 2.16 versus 1.6. And as a result, to me, honestly, and you pay $10 less. That's the other thing. This is cheaper than the Calmigo. And so for me, this is kind of a no-brainer. If you say, hey, Nick, you get one California legal auto Sprint. Case closed, problem solved, not even thinking freaking twice. But the thing is, and I think a lot of folks are going to fall on the same side of things, because if you're looking at a 2-inch knife, you don't necessarily need a big beatery kind of thing. I mean, no one's going to be wielding his batoning with a 2-inch little automatic thing. That's not a thing. But I think there are some people who might prefer the beefitude, who might prefer the lock, who might prefer the bigger size. I have relatively small hands, so maybe this would be a tougher option for them. Although for those folks, you got the half-breed with the full handle and whatnot. So I don't know. But maybe the Calmigo does appeal. Maybe it does beat out the Sprint just because you like some element of the design. And this will be your perfect California legal auto. If you were a person who almost did the run or who did the run, but maybe wants to fix a couple of the issues, this is probably a good choice. And, even frankly, if you're not, the Calmigo will probably be a worthy amigo in or out of the Cal. So there you go. Hope this has been interesting to you, and have yourselves just an absolutely wonderful rest of your day. Bye now.